Good afternoon, I'm Staff Sergeant Ellis. On your previous block of instruction, we covered blueprints. For your next block of instruction, we'll be covering Cartesian coordinate grid and positioning systems. This will lead into your next block of instruction, which is intuitive programming on the vertical milling machine. So you may wonder why this is important to you. So I'm going to give you a real life scenario. Can I get 2 volunteers to come up here real quick? Alright, can you come up here please? And can you come up here please? Alright, so go ahead and face each other right up here. So here's a scenario. You're in Afghanistan. Your record's down and your commander approaches you. He asks you if you can rebuild the part that he needs to get the record operational. You have the milling machine and you have the stock to build the part. It's going to roughly take you about 6 hours to complete the part. So you're going to be the commander and you're going to be the soldier in this scenario. Can you all go ahead and play this out for me real quick?
Yes, sir.
Alright, go ahead.
Soldier, I have a part for you to build for the record. Can you do it?
I have the capabilities of the milling machine. As long as you provide the blueprint, I can make it, sir.
Excellent, soldier.
Awesome. Alright, so scroll forward. 6 hours has now passed. You return to the commander. You tell him you couldn't complete the part. You crashed your machine. This is actually the part that you crashed right here. So now, you're going to return to him and you're going to tell him, I failed to make the part. I was unfamiliar with Cartesian coordinates and that's why I failed to make the part. Now the machine's going to be down for 2 days. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Alright, go ahead and play it out again, please.
Soldier, have you completed the part?
No, sir. I was unfamiliar with the Cartesian coordinate system, and I crashed the part, so now it's roughly going to take 2 days for the machine to be back up and running, sir.
That's disappointing. We'll talk about that later.
Yes, sir.
Alright, thank you both. Alright, so I told you the story to set the stage for what we will be learning today, which is our terminal learning objective, our action, is to identify coordinates given on the Cartesian coordinate grid using positioning systems. Our condition, in a classroom with a smart board, references, and positioning worksheet. Our standard, we're going to complete the worksheet and check on learning questions to be prepared for setup on the vertical milling machine. Alright, so let's talk about emergencies and drills real quick. Earlier in our previous lesson, we went over fire, earthquakes, and tornadoes, so we don't need to go over them again. For environmental considerations, we're in a COVID-19 environment, so ensure that you wear a mask at all times and try to maintain 6 feet between you at all times too. Also, take out anything that you brought in this classroom and ensure that you recycle. Finally, our risk assessment is low.
Always low!
Alright, so one more point I want to be clear on is how you will be tested on this. You don't want to end up like the private Snuffy in that scenario that we just went through. So learn your Cartesian coordinates and positioning fundamentals to ensure successful completion of your workpiece. Your workpiece is worth roughly 10% of your overall grade while you're here. And that can be referenced to on your ISAP. If for some reason you need a reference ISAP, it is located in the back of the room on the boards. Alright, so getting back to the situation of the crashed machine real quick. Tell me how you would think it would go after the machine crashes. What do you got, soldier?
Sorry, you kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone, because now the record's still down and now your machine's down.
Absolutely. Anybody else? What do you got?
For me personally, I feel like I won't be able to make any more pieces of use the machine in general because I crashed it, and I think I wouldn't know how to make anything else after that.
Absolutely. So what do you think the commander would think of the soldier? What do you think?
I don't think the commander would trust the soldier.
Absolutely, right? Because he just failed the mission. Now the mission's not going to be able to go through, right? Anybody else? What do you think the commander would think of the soldier? What do you got?
I think the commander will think that the soldier will need more to learn about the machine.
Absolutely. One more question for you. How would this affect the overall unit? What do you think?
It would fail the mission, Sergeant?
It would fail the mission, absolutely. Would it lower morale?
Yes, sir.
It would lower morale. One more question before we move on. How would this affect you if it happened to you? If you were the one that crashed the machine? What do you have back there?
I would feel disappointed, Sergeant.
You feel disappointed? Okay. Anybody else? What do you got?
I would, depending on what rank you are, if you're already a sergeant or something, that could kind of expect some reprimand for doing something like that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. All right, so we wouldn't want these negative outcomes, would we?
No, Sergeant.
Absolutely not. So one way to prevent this is to understand how your CNC machine will move and what its references will be. And that's what we will be talking about today, Cartesian coordinate and positioning systems. All right, so you learned in bench that machining is a process. CNC machining is a process too, but it has to be set up correctly in the program. So can I get one volunteer real quick? I want to do a skit. Come on up, soldier, please. All right, can you please do me a favor and stand in front of the class real quick and face the class? All right, can you close your eyes? Go ahead and rotate 360 degrees real quick. All right, so go ahead and take 2 steps north.
Sorry, I don't know which direction that is.
Okay. Take 2 steps east.
Sorry, I don't know what direction that is.
All right, so y'all see, he may know what direction north is if he had a compass, but at this time he doesn't know. So I have to speak in a language he understands at the moment. And this is the same way a CNC machine works. It can't see where it's going, and you need to speak to it in a language it can understand. So if, for example, I told the soldier, go ahead and take a half left face real quick. All right, go ahead and take 1 step backwards. All right, take 1 step to the right. So you all see that when I speak to him in a language he understands, he now knows where to go, right? And I can position my machine, or the soldier, for example, wherever I need him to be, right?
Yes, Sergeant.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's talk about something else that you all may have seen in the past. So, has anybody seen something like this in the past in school? What do you think?
I think it's you mentioned some negative and positive coordinate system.
Okay. What does anybody else have any input? What do you think?
Number line, Sergeant.
It is a number line. Absolutely correct. What do y'all notice about the numbers as I go to the right? What do you think?
Positive, Sergeant.
They are positive. What about as we go to the left? What do you got?
Negative, Sergeant.
They are negative. So what if I told you this was actually a Cartesian coordinate grid axis? Does anybody know what axis this is? What do you got in the back?
The x-axis?
It is the x-axis. In which directions does this go?
Right to left.
It does go right to left. Absolutely correct. So let me draw one more number line real quick. All right, so I know that for this picture on this TV right there, it's up and down. But I want you to imagine that this screen is flat on your desk. Which directions does it go? What do you think?
Forward and backwards, Sergeant.
That is correct. So, going forward, what do y'all notice about the numbers? What do you got over there?
They're positive, Sergeant.
They are positive. What about going backwards?
They're negative, Sergeant.
They are negative. Absolutely correct. So, this is actually another part of your Cartesian coordinate grid. Does anybody know what axis this is? What do you got?
Y-axis, Sergeant.
It is the y-axis. You are absolutely correct. So, talking about this situation right here, what do you think your starting position would be? What do you got?
These are the crosshairs.
It would be the crosshairs.
0, 0.
So moving from that position, I always start at the crosshairs, right?
Yes, Sergeant.
All right, so let's talk about something else y'all are familiar with. Let's talk about a map real quick. So if I told you to go to the bus station, right? And I gave you the map, and I told you to go 3 blocks north and 4 blocks east. If I gave you the map and I told you to get to the hotel, would y'all be able to do that?
Yes, Sergeant.
Absolutely, right? Simple enough. All right, so let's talk about that Cartesian coordinate grid again real quick. So y'all will notice that it's very similar to the number line I just drew up there. But y'all will see that it has quadrants on there now, right? There are 4 quadrants. So I know where my starting position is on my Cartesian coordinate grid. But I also need to know where my workpiece is in reference to the Cartesian coordinate grid. So, in a previous block of instruction, we talked about blueprints, and we talked about the starting position on those blueprints that is set up, correct? So, if my blueprint tells me that my starting point on this block right here is right here in the lower right corner, or lower left corner, where would it be in position to this? What do you got?
Top right quadrant, sorry?
It would be in the top right quadrant, which is what quadrant?
Number 1.
It is number 1. What do you notice about X and Y in this quadrant?
They're positive.
They are positive. So, coming back to the block, what if I change my starting position to the upper right corner? What quadrant would I be in then? What do you got?
Quadrant 3, sorry?
It would be in quadrant 3. What do you notice about X and Y in this?
They're both negative.
They are both negative. Awesome. Alright, so let's move on real quick. We're going to do kind of a little bit of a practical exercise real quick. I'm going to call one of you up here, and I'm going to have you position my workpiece and my vise on my Cartesian coordinate grid. Can I get a volunteer real quick? Let's see. Can I have you come up here? Alright, so the starting position on my workpiece over here is going to be in the upper left corner. Can you position it in the Cartesian coordinate grid real quick?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Alright, is he correct?
Yes, sir.
He absolutely is correct. What quadrant are you in?
The 4th quadrant, sergeant.
You are in the 4th quadrant. What do you notice about your X in this quadrant?
The positive, sergeant.
What about the Y?
Negative, sergeant.
Awesome. Thank you. Alright, can I get one more volunteer up here real quick? Let's get you in the back. Alright, same scenario, we have our vise and our workpiece. But this time my starting position on my workpiece is in this lower right corner. Can you position in the Cartesian coordinate grid real quick?
Yes, sergeant.
Thank you. Alright, is he correct?
Yes, sir.
He absolutely is correct. What quadrant are you in right now?
The 2nd quadrant, sergeant.
You are in the 2nd quadrant. What do you notice about your Y in this quadrant?
It is positive, sergeant.
What about my X?
Negative, sergeant.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sergeant.
Alright, so we talked about the Cartesian coordinate grid. Now we're going to talk about positioning systems used in the Cartesian coordinate grid. So, there are 2 types of positioning systems. One of them is absolute, and the second is incremental. Alright, so let's talk about absolute positioning real quick. So let's give you a scenario real quick. Let's look at this picture. So you see that we have racers on the starting line, right? Anytime we're in a race, where do we start from? What's that?
Starting position, sergeant.
It's the starting line every single time. So that's how this positioning system works. Anytime we make any type of movement, we're always going to return to that starting line. It's helpful to think of the X and Y in the Cartesian grid as positions instead of actual distances. Alright, so we're going to I'm going to show you how to do this properly real quick, and then I'm going to call one of you up here to demonstrate this, okay?
Yes, sergeant.
Alright, so where am I going to start in this scenario?
0, 0.
Which is where on my Cartesian coordinate grid?
Middle.
The middle, right? So if I start right here, I'm going to go to alpha, which is x positive 6, y positive 6. So starting from the starting position, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to go positive y6, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
What grid am I in, or what quadrant am I in? What do you got?
Quadrant 1, sir.
Absolutely correct. Alright, can I get a volunteer up here real quick? Come on up, soldier. Alright, here you go. So where are you going to start off in here?
I'm gonna start the 0, Sergeant.
All right, so can you go x negative 8, y positive 3?
X negative,
Negative 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And 8. Okay, now go y positive 3 from your last position that you were at.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
All right, so is he correct? All right, so what quadrant are you in right now?
Quadrant 2 also.
Absolutely correct. Thank you. All right. So we talked about absolute. Let's talk about incremental real quick. So going back to the racing scenario, right? Instead of it being a standard race now we're going to do a relay race. What do we know about relay races? What do you got in the back?
They got various starting points.
The starting point changes. Absolutely correct. So do you return to the starting line every single time? You don't return to the starting line. So you're always going to go from your last destination. Kind of like handing off a baton to your battle buddy, right? Absolutely. Alright, so in this scenario right here, I know my last known destination is Alpha, and I'm going to Bravo. So Bravo is telling me to go x negative 12, y 0. So I'm going to go over to Alpha real quick, because I'm not going to go to the center anymore, am I? Alright, so I'm going to go to Alpha, and I'm going to go x negative 12. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Does everybody see that? Am I going to move anything in y though? No, because it's y 0. Alright. Alright, so can I get a volunteer to come up here real quick? Come on up. Alright, so you're at position Bravo. Can you go to position C?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
And that's your final destination, right?
What?
So that's Charlie. Is he correct?
Yes, sir.
He absolutely is correct. What quadrant are you in right now?
1, 2, 3.
You are in the third quadrant. Thank you. Alright. So at this time, on your desk, you're going to see a practical exercise. Please review it and work through it real quick. And then in a couple minutes, we're going to come back together and we're going to work on a couple of the questions. Alright, go ahead and work on it, please. Alright, we're going to go ahead and move on to actually review this practical exercise. Alright, so, can I get a volunteer to come up here real quick? Go ahead in the back, come on up. So let's review question 2 real quick. So before I have you do it with the smartboard, can you tell me what you've got for question 2?
Negative 3, positive 3, sorry.
So negative 3y or negative 3x?
Negative 3x.
Okay, and then you got negative 3x? Go ahead and play it out on the smartboard real quick. Grab a pen and play it out. Go ahead and start from the start, because we're using absolute positioning, and go to position 2. And go ahead and count off as you go.
Oh.
So you're going x Positive or negative?
Positive, Sergeant.
And you're going how many?
3, Sergeant.
Okay. What about Y? Are you going positive or negative?
Negative, Sergeant.
Okay. And how many are you moving?
3, Sergeant.
All right, y'all see how that works?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Is he correct?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yeah, absolutely is correct. Thank you.
Yes, Sergeant.
Can I get one more volunteer? Come on up. All right, so we did absolute positioning. Let's do an incremental program position real quick. So you're at position 10, and you're going to position 11. How far am I moving incrementally?
X positive 4, Sergeant.
All right, can you do it with the marker real quick?
1, 2, 3, 4.
So it's positive 4. X or Y?
X, Sergeant.
What about Y? Are we moving any in Y?
No, Sergeant. 0.
Thank you. All right. So let's go ahead and do a check on learning real quick. So, what are 2 positioning systems used in CNC? What do you got in the back?
Absolute and incremental positioning system.
That is absolutely correct. All right. One more question. What are 2 axes used in CNC? What do you got right there?
X and Y, so.
Absolutely correct. X and Y. And finally, how many quadrants can a plane be divided into? What do you got in the back?
4 quadrants, Sergeant.
That's absolutely correct. So in summary, what did we learn today?
We learned about the 4 quadrants and how the X and Y vary depending on which quadrant you're in.
Absolutely. Anything else?
We learned about positioning systems such as absolute and incremental.
Okay. So you can reference all this information on page 569 and 570 in your textbooks. You can also reference this information on the Blackboard online class you're enrolled in. You can access various videos and practical exercises. So let's bring it back to the original scenario we started with. How are Cartesian coordinates relevant to the original scenario?
I would say because that way the private would not have crashed the machine and would have made the part correctly.
Absolutely. Anything else?
They give you the ability to anticipate what the machine will do, giving you situational awareness.
Okay. Anything else? What do you got?
It would justify the 91 Echo as an allied trade specialist instead of just a welder, adding the machine's capability as well.
Yeah, that's correct. So are there any questions before we move on to our practical position worksheet? All right, go ahead and work on your worksheet.